My husband cheated with a 20-year-old and had twin boys, then they d*ed in a crash, and now everyone wants me to raise his affair babies. I'm a 45-year-old woman, and my husband, who was 49, had been cheating on me with a 20-year-old girl since 2020. We'd been married for 23 years. I only found out about the affair this year, when that young woman gave birth to twin boys in March. That's when everything blew up. Divorce was the obvious next step. We've been working through the divorce process ever since, but it's been dragging out. We own a few properties together, and it turned into a mess once we realized he'd been using our joint bank account to fund his affair. We had to get accountants involved to untangle the financial side of things. Finally, it looked like we were getting close to finalizing it all until everything took a tragic turn. Both my husband and the woman he cheated with were killed in a car accident. Somehow, the twins survived the crash without a scratch. Now, they're orphaned. Neither of their families is in a position to raise them. My in-laws are both living in assisted care facilities. My husband was an only child, and the one aunt who might have helped has been proudly child-free her entire life and refuses to take them. I don't know the full story on the woman's side, but from what I've gathered, her parents can't commit to raising them either. Her only sibling, a sister, lives overseas. Since my husband and I were still legally married when he passed and he never updated his will, all of his assets are going to me and our 2 daughters. I'm not heartless, those babies didn't ask for any of this. So, I told the legal guardian, whoever that ends up being, that they could have what's left in the joint savings account. There's around $25,000 in there. But here's the issue, nobody wants to take these boys in. And now, my in-laws have started putting pressure on me to raise them. The problem is, I just can't. I don't have it in me. I know I wouldn't love them the way they deserve. I'm not trying to be cruel, but I'd always see them as a reminder of the betrayal. No matter how hard I tried, I know deep down I'd always have some level of resentment, and that's not fair to those kids. I don't want to become the kind of woman who plays the role of the resentful stepmother. I loved my husband. At least, I thought I did, before I found out about the affair. We have 2 daughters together, they're 14 and 16. Sure, we had arguments like any couple, but it never got toxic. That changed when I found out about the other woman. He turned on me, started insulting me, blaming me for his infidelity, even tried to force me out of my own home. For the record, that house is my childhood home and not marital property. Now I'm raising 2 teenagers on my own, and I just don't have the capacity to raise babies again. My daughters want nothing to do with their half-brothers. I tried to encourage them to spend time with their dad during the divorce, but once the truth came out, they wanted no part of it. Because the affair came to light due to the pregnancy and the twins' birth, there wasn't really a way to soften the blow. And my girls are old enough to see things clearly, they weren't fooled. Most of my friends agree that it's not my job to step in and take care of those boys. But that hasn't stopped my in-laws, the woman's parents, and even my own mother from insisting that I should. I think my mom's just caught up in the idea of more grandbabies, honestly. But it still hurts that she's siding with them instead of supporting me. I have until next week to make a final decision. If no one steps up by then, the twins will be placed in foster care. For now, they're staying temporarily with their maternal grandparents. And while it absolutely breaks my heart, I'm confident that I can't take them in. I just can't. Mini update: wow, this post got way more attention than I expected. Thank you for the kindness, the encouragement, and for everyone who's offered help or even expressed interest in giving those boys a loving home. It truly means something, even though I'm not their mom. After taking some time to think things over, talking with my lawyer, reading all the responses, and doing a bit of soul-searching, I've made a decision. I'm going to speak with the twins' grandparents tomorrow and let them know I won't be taking on legal guardianship. I'm also planning to pass along the contact information of people who've reached out offering private adoption or fostering opportunities. Where the twins go from here will be up to their grandparents, whether they choose adoption, keep the boys, or turn to the state. As much as I wish I had the mental and emotional bandwidth to be the one to raise them, I simply don't. My 2 daughters are going through their own heartbreak, and they need me fully and completely. I'll also be checking with the lawyers to see if the twins are entitled to any inheritance. If they are, I'll make sure it's properly allocated and handled by professionals so they'll have access to it when they're older. If not, I'll still follow through with my plan to give them that $25,000 from our joint account. But that's where my contribution will end. I may sound cold to some, but I don't believe I'm morally or legally responsible to do anything beyond what the law says. I have to put my daughters first. They've just lost their father. They're hurting. They need therapy. They're heading into some of the most critical years of their lives. College is just around the corner. They've been through enough, and I refuse to let them feel like I'm choosing their dad's affair children over them. Right now, the fact that it's only for now gives me hope that my daughters and I will eventually come out the other side of this mess. We're making small changes around the house, starting with the things that still feel like they belong to my husband. There's an office space he used that none of us really like. We've decided to convert it into a gaming room, something fun we can enjoy together. I also plan to take down the photos of him around the house. Not to erase him, but to put them in albums for the girls, where they can choose to revisit those memories on their own terms. The goal is to make this house feel like ours again. As for why my daughters want nothing to do with their father, well, it wasn't just about the affair. They were the ones who actually discovered it. He took them to the hospital to meet the twins after they were born and asked them to keep the whole thing a secret. But they told me instead. After that, things got ugly fast. He turned on them, too, and completely destroyed any trust or love they still had for him. Tiny legal update: since a few people keep messaging me about the boys' inheritance, I spoke with my lawyer on Monday. Here's the deal: until there's a DNA test confirming paternity, the twins don't have a claim. And even if that comes through, their only legal claim would be against my in-laws, not me. The joint account isn't considered part of my husband's separate assets, it's legally mine. Same with the lake house. Now, my husband did have a personal savings account and a life insurance policy. Those went directly to his parents. If the boys have any inheritance rights, it would come from that, not from me. My lawyer also warned me that if I voluntarily share any funds with the twins, it could be used to argue that I've accepted financial responsibility for them, and that might open the door to being named their guardian. So, I'm not doing that. Instead, I'm dividing the money from the joint account to fund my daughter's college educations. I'm still unsure if I'll sell the lake house, but honestly, we're not emotionally attached to it anymore. Please, stop sending me messages about giving the twins money. It's heartbreaking, yes, but their father caused this. I didn't. I'm not obligated legally or morally to give up the future I planned for my girls. Update 2, there's some good and some frustrating news. First, the good CPS safely removed the twins from their maternal grandparents and placed them into foster care while a permanent solution is arranged. I learned about it after their grandparents, along with my own mother, showed up at my workplace and started yelling at me. Honestly, I'm relieved it happened at work and not at home. It's made me seriously consider moving. I don't want my daughters exposed to this circus anymore. The annoying part? Someone submitted my name to CPS as a potential foster or adoptive parent for the twins. I got a call about it, totally blindsided. When I explained what was going on between me and the twins' grandparents, the caseworker was speechless. She apologized and promised to remove me from their contact list. And then this morning, I got served. My in-laws are suing for grandparents' rights. Not just that, they're also trying to get custody of the twins. Apparently, they're planning to leave their assisted living facility, something they absolutely shouldn't be doing health-wise, and buy a house so they can raise the boys. On top of that, they're also asking for custody of my daughters. Yes, you read that right. My lawyer immediately gave me some legal advice I won't share publicly, just to protect myself and my girls in case this escalates. We both suspect my in-laws are hoping to use my daughters as helpers or caretakers for the twins, since they can't handle childcare on their own due to mobility issues. That's never going to happen. There's no way CPS would approve that placement anyway. But not all news is bad. I'm starting therapy next week, which I know I need. My oldest has finally begun talking again about the colleges she's interested in. We haven't really discussed their dad yet, and neither of my daughters wants to visit his grave. I haven't gone either. Honestly, I'm struggling to stop calling him my husband. I wasn't involved in the funeral arrangements, aside from covering some costs. But I did find out his parents had his headstone engraved with devoted and beloved husband, father, and son. I couldn't believe it. It's laughable. I know it's not healthy to hold on to so much anger, but as soon as I have the time, I plan to change the inscription and remove husband and father. That man cheated on me, abused me, and destroyed our family. Just because he died doesn't mean I owe him kindness. To anyone upset about that, I paid for the tombstone. So take your complaints elsewhere. I probably won't post another update until the lawsuit with my in-laws is resolved. But to everyone who's supported me and my daughters, thank you. Your kindness has meant more than you know. Maybe I'll have better news down the line, but for now, I'm switching back to my old Reddit account. Update 3. Hey again, so some of you have been asking for updates. I didn't really have anything new to share until today. Some cousins from my late husband's side have stepped up and taken the twins in. I actually know them pretty well, they're wonderful people, and I'm confident those boys will be loved and cared for. The new guardians, Matt and Kim, reached out to my daughters and told them that if they ever want to connect with their half-brothers, they're more than welcome. No pressure. If they prefer to just think of them as distant cousins, that's totally fine too. My girls appreciated the gesture but said they're not ready for any kind of sibling relationship right now. Maybe someday, but not yet. I did offer Matt and Kim the $25,000 from the joint account since they're family and are taking on a huge responsibility. But they kindly declined. Kim actually told me to use the money to take my girls on a vacation, saying I look like a walking corpse. She wasn't wrong. They also laid down firm boundaries with both my in-laws and the parents of the affair partner. They've made it clear that while those people can see the boys, they won't be seen as grandparents, and honestly, I think that's fair. Apparently, it led to a big blowout with the affair partner's parents. So Matt and Kim cut them off completely. That's also when I found out the real reason the twins' maternal grandparents couldn't take them long-term. Turns out the grandfather has a conviction in an abuse case. I won't go into the details, out of respect, but if what I was told is true, I'm relieved the boys won't be raised in that environment. The only reason the grandmother got temporary custody in the first place was because of the sudden deaths. For her to keep the boys, she would have had to live separately from her husband. She wasn't willing to do that. As for my in-laws, when they realized their legal threats weren't working, they backed off. They've now decided they'll just be great uncles to the boys instead. Fine by me. Now they're asking to move in with me and my girls because their assisted living facility no longer has space. There's a long wait list, and the only reason they had a spot before was because my husband and I prepaid for 5 years in advance. 2 of those years are still covered. I was supposed to continue payments after that. But after everything they've done to my daughters and me? I'd rather light that money on fire than use it to house them. I won't be their caretaker, and neither will my girls. I won't even entertain the idea of letting my ex-in-laws move in. My daughters have their own paths ahead of them, and I want them to focus on living their lives, not becoming caretakers for people who've done nothing but cause us pain. And truthfully, I've started thinking about opening myself up to someone new. I know that might sound fast to some people, but the truth is, I've been emotionally letting go since the day I discovered the affair. I already went through the mourning process, mourning the relationship, the trust, the future I thought we had. According to my oldest daughter, I've already grieved him more than he ever deserved. She even told me I should go out and meet someone when I'm ready. It's strange how roles reverse sometimes, my child encouraging me to start over. We're still in the middle of the grandparents' rights lawsuit, along with a few other unresolved legal issues. I'll update once more things settle. But I wanted to let everyone know that, thankfully, the twins are safe and staying together. Update for this week: we had mediation regarding the grandparents' rights case. These sessions are supposed to help ease court caseloads by settling disputes before they go to trial, but honestly, I knew nothing would come from it. My ex-in-laws showed up demanding either full custody of my daughters or at least to have them during the week, while I'd only get them on weekends. That's right. They expected to essentially raise them after everything. Even the court-appointed mediator said their demands were completely unrealistic. My lawyer and I stood firm with one offer: the girls will only have contact with their grandparents if they want to and only when they choose to. The mediator actually thought we were being inflexible, until something wild came out. Turns out, my ex-in-laws told the mediator that my daughters were 6 and 4 years old. In reality, they're 17 and 15. A full decade older. I provided birth certificates and photos on the spot. The mediator just shook his head and said there wasn't anything he could do for them in this situation. He's planning to recommend that the grandparents' rights case be dismissed entirely. Unfortunately, the custody case is still on the table since neither of us has budged. They now want me to name them legal guardians in case something happens to me. My answer? Absolutely not. Then something unexpected happened. The sister of my husband's affair partner showed up at my home. She brought with her a box of items she'd found while cleaning out their place. These were clearly things stolen from me, stuff that was supposed to be in storage: my wedding dress, an old jewelry box with a picture of my grandparents, some expensive coats and shoes, and most disturbingly, copies of my personal documents, my passport, ID cards, that sort of thing. She was polite and apologetic. She said she recognized my name and used the address from the documents to return the items. She also apologized for both her sister and her parents. I asked her why she didn't take in the twins herself, and she just said she was tired of always being her family's backup plan. I respected her boundaries and didn't push for more. She said her sister used to brag about getting these things from my husband. Except for the IDs, she had no idea how or why those were in her sister's possession. She wanted no part in identity theft, and I could tell she was genuinely uncomfortable with the whole situation. Some of the stuff she brought didn't belong to me, so I returned those. I only kept what was mine. Afterward, I told my lawyer about the document issue. He immediately helped me freeze my credit and begin the process of getting new IDs and passports. We also reported the potential identity theft to the police, not to press charges, but just to have the incident on file in case my personal information is ever misused. Apparently, filing a report tied to someone deceased is more common than I thought. This won't lead to a posthumous conviction or anything, it's just a paper trail to protect me. And for a bit of cathartic closure, I've decided I'm going to burn my wedding dress. I'm thinking marshmallows, maybe a little wine, and s'mores by the fire. Petty? Maybe. But also? Very satisfying. Update 5. A little context if you're just tuning in, I'm 46 now, and my daughters are 17 and 15. Things have been incredibly tense between them and their grandparents, my late husband's parents, who are now 78 and 80. Ever since my husband passed away in an accident last year, we've been through one emotional minefield after another. His affair left behind 2 little boys, now orphaned after both parents died. And it seems every month brings a new round of drama. His parents have tried to gain custody of my daughters, and also tried to move into our home. The first fight is heading to court. The second will never happen. I've made sure of that. Now, for something lighter, this past weekend was special. We have a weekend farmers market in town where local growers sell fresh produce, meats, eggs, all kinds of homemade goods. My youngest just had her birthday, and since her party's happening later this month, I gave her a little spending budget and turned her loose at the market. She had a blast picking out whatever she wanted. My youngest ended up spending most of her market money on chocolate and sweets, which made me smile until about an hour passed and she still hadn't come back. I started to worry. Just as I was reaching for my phone to call her, she called me first, crying. She said a group of older women had cornered her. I rushed to her with my older daughter, and when we got there, we found 6 women clearly in their 60s or older, surrounding her, scolding her for being unchristian. They were furious that she refused to spend time with her paternal grandparents or be a good big sister to her poor, orphan half-brothers. My daughters were the ones who discovered their dad's affair, and they're the ones who told me. The babies are a direct source of trauma for them, and we're working through it in therapy. I stepped between them and my daughter immediately, told my oldest to go ahead and pay for whatever her sister picked out and wait in the car. Then I turned to face the women, some of whom I recognized from my ex-in-laws' church days, and I let them have it. They said I was a terrible person for not obeying my ex-in-laws like a good Christian wife. I nearly gagged. The confrontation got heated, and eventually the shouting drew enough attention that we were all asked to leave the market. The women actually followed me to the parking lot like a flock of judgmental vultures. I got my girls in the car and drove off as fast as I could. That night, after I tucked my daughters into bed, I reached out to someone I still know from that church, someone I actually trust. I explained what had happened. He was incredibly apologetic and said he wasn't surprised. Then he clued me in on the real reason this happened. Apparently, my ex-mother-in-law had written a long, dramatic post in the church's private group. In it, she painted me and my daughters as monsters. According to her, we stole her son's savings and life insurance, left her and her husband penniless and homeless, and refused to let them see their grandsons or granddaughters. She even claimed we were responsible for taking away her grandsons after the affair partner's death. Of course, she left out a few key facts like the cheating, the emotional abuse, and the fact that my daughters don't speak to them because they were bullied and blamed. Her story made us sound like villains in some low-budget Hallmark sob story, and the more extreme church members fell for it instantly. That church, for all its flaws, especially around LGBTQ+ issues, is very strict about adultery. No tolerance, whether it's the husband or the wife. So how did my ex-mother-in-law get around the inconvenient detail of her saintly son having a secret family? Simple, she lied. She told everyone that the affair partner was actually our surrogate, brought in because I couldn't have more children. And she said I rejected the babies because they were boys. Disgusting. At that point, I decided I'd had enough. Since my divorce wasn't finalized before my ex passed away, I was still legally his spouse. That meant I had every right to release the evidence I had without any legal repercussions. So, I took the next day off work and went to a print shop. I made copies of every damning piece of evidence, pictures of my ex cheating, screenshots of his text messages with the affair partner, conversations with his parents where he admitted to the affair and got their full support, and emails and texts from my in-laws berating me for the divorce. One message, just 2 days after he died, even had them calling my daughters bastards and blaming them for his death, saying if they hadn't told me about the affair, I wouldn't have filed for divorce. I had it all. I paid extra to have everything printed in beautiful, glossy, high-quality paper. Then I spent hours at home compiling it all into custom binders, ones that looked just like the little in packets their church hands out at Sunday services. On the first page was a photo of my ex and his affair partner making out right in our living room. Their faces were clear, and she looked nothing like me. Different skin tone, different hair, completely obvious. Beneath that, I wrote, the love story of ex-husband's name, and affair partner's name. That Sunday, I dropped the binders off at the church. They have a table in the back where people grab extra songbooks, and nobody ever checks what's there. It didn't take long for the gossip to start. What happened next was absolute chaos. The Facebook group lit up like wildfire. The insults thrown at my ex and his mistress were so bad the pastor had to step in to keep things from turning too ugly. People were outraged, not just at the cheating, but at how my in-laws treated my daughters. What cracked me up, though, was that while they still blamed me for the divorce, they now called it understandable because I'd been blindsided by a betrayal. Apparently, I had fallen from grace, but might one day return to the light. My ex, on the other hand, and his Jezebel, not the word they actually used, were beyond redemption. We even got 2 apology letters in the mail, one addressed to me, and one to my daughters. They also included an invitation to return to the church for emotional support. Meanwhile, my in-laws were shamed into leaving the congregation entirely. My ex-mother-in-law later made a public Facebook post on her own page about how lonely and abandoned she feels. She wrote about how nobody respects the elderly anymore, and how she wishes her beloved son were still alive because he would have taken care of them. I still don't know what money she thought he'd use for that, considering I was always the breadwinner. As for the will, my ex did have one. But instead of leaving everything to our daughters like he told me he would, he named his parents as the beneficiaries. I never fought it at the time, I didn't see the point, since I had my own will that names my daughters as sole beneficiaries. Not him. And that, I suppose, is where this chapter ends. If there's anything more to share, it'll be in court documents or therapy sessions. But for now, my daughters and I are safe, together, and trying to heal.